All right, we've got a banger of a series on our hands. My only regret is that you guys watching this, you're not watching it live because this is a heck of an exciting series. Everybody's bringing it in. We've got some plate rates, well, I should say base races all the way at the end of the game. Super exciting at every moment. Now, one thing I'm not excited about is another Kindred pick. T1. I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to be wowed. I want to see exactly why they're trying to do it. They have many of the same circumstances that they had last time they tried this. They've got the Kindred versus Wukong matchup. They've got the Nautilus versus Annie matchup. So they clearly expect to be able to make a play here. Last time we saw that Knight was able to rotate over from mid lane and stop the invade. Is Kindred going to show that much aggression again? We've seen plenty of solo queue videos of Kindred just going red buff into invade. One of the best early combatant champions in the game, being able to cut you around and deal tons of damage while doing it. How are they going to proceed? This time, though, different tank in the top lane. We've got Malphite as an adaptation. Malphite versus Gragas is going to be the ultimate wet noodle fight. We do see Gragas actually going for Comet, so he thinks he can win this lane straight out. Not going to be with auto attacks as Malphite's bringing the grasp. One thing that you can do as a team, if you're supposing that Malphite is going to be tanking, this is a wet noodle fight, just give him as few grasp procs as possible. It's a fairly meaningless thing in the large scheme of things, but every amount of HP that you can deny will matter as you get into late game fights. But largely, nothing's going to beat the wave priority and things like this, standard laning procedures. Now, we do see a couple interesting adaptations from the junglers. Kindred going blue into red, Faker running towards him now. But is it going to be with a red continued buff? Here we go. They get the first blood onto Faker. Not the start you want. And we see flashing over from both champions. They're committing to the play. Kindred flashes out. So 2 flashes for 1. But it does mean that they're going to be last on the play. They get the kill for themselves. Owner stays alive. This is what you ask for. Now, are they going to try to shove this out together? They might aggress with... Oh, I hate that. Okay, they get it anyways. Whew. The fact that Tom Kench landed that W, I thought meant that Faker was going to flash right away to continue, but it turns out that they had exactly enough to follow up, and they are able to go by. So calculated, not using flash on a whole nother level. But as we were talking about with that play, right, Kindred's invading as Wukong's ganking from Nautilus' backside. Again, a little bit of a miscommunication between the team. Nautilus generally would want to be hovering right to be a little bit safer. It was, and mostly got away. But just when it came time to take the fight, that extra 1 or 2 sources of damage was enough to swing it. Now check out, this is what Malphite finds out. He sees about the invade, so they know Wukong's back here. Nautilus hovering top right, yeah, right there. That step forward, that's a little bit too much. Perhaps thinking that Kindred, would get the idea that, hey, we're going to make this fight happen, come over to me now. But T1 not reacting to the information of the Wukong, and JDG specifically reacting to knowing that Kindred is on the red buff and not coming over. So you better believe they're watching that minimap. They don't see the Kindred come out, so they know they've got time. Maybe Faker thought that with some amount of heads-up information that they'd be able to sneak into that bush and have first strike ability, but not realizing that the ward was already there. Definitely something to point out for these players, right? Early game warding situations. What are their patterns? Where are they dropping wards and at what time? And JDG gets paid off. And again, we have the situation where Kindred, showing early game strength, has a kill to their name, but at what cost, and how are they going to manipulate games later? Now, I like what Owner's doing right here, covering top lane, suspecting a dive. Anytime that you see a large wave being stacked against one of your laners, it's a good idea to show up. So that is why Owner appears here, is able to suss out the gank from Kanavi and basically save Zeus. Now, this is a tremendously bad matchup for them. Gragas basically never, ever dies. Just by normally casting spells, you're going to undo any damage that Malphite does. Once you get to level 5, Malphite will be happy to just spend 2 E's on the minion wave. And at level 7, he can do it with auto attacks plus E's, and he'll be good. Now, this is what I wish I had seen from Zeus in that previous game, where you have a moment to create a tremendous freeze, not getting the full effect of a freezing situation is the difference between crushing your lane and just winning your lane. This time, look at the situation and why it's different. 369 needs to get a back off. That wave is so big that it will eviscerate his wave before he can get back. If he just clears them out, he's going to be using his teleport, and he gets to spend that money. That's the most important part of this iteration. Is it exactly enough to buy an item? Yes, it is. A little bit slow on his... No, it's not slow at all. He was waiting till he got to 341 gold. Once you get to 341, you press teleport. You'll chug up to 350 while you're teleporting, and you can pick that gold up. Pick that item up while you're mid-flight. This mana crystal suggesting that we're going to get a Rod of Ages this time from Gragas. Although we could see something like Zeke's Convergence. Wouldn't be the end of the world if they did something like that to truly empower Kindred or Jinx, but I expect it to be Roa, especially first, right? Zeke is much stronger once you get into team fights where you know you're going to be together. A race to the plant. JDG getting it. Swings this matchup. If it weren't already tough, that little bit of difference, right? Being first one out into river to get the juicy fruits means that Gragas is going to be topped off. Malphite's going to have to take another recall for himself, and you start seeing that Gragas is pressing onto this lane. Now, T1 opting to try to make some headway elsewhere, going for the dragon, using the back timer from the Aphelios to step forward and take this. Also, just the winning matchup in the jungle from Kindred, especially with this early Noon Quiver, means that she's going to be racing through these camps and trying to arrive wherever Wukong could be and get there first, get position, deal some damage, and look for these trades. Now, level 6 will be a little bit of a different beast, right? As a Kindred, you're still very, very squishy. You do not want to show up against Wukong and Annie. Now, I do want to shout out something from Zeus. Another effect of losing that back recall, as he did, and the fact that he's scrambling right now. You see him, this is the third recall in 90 seconds. Just trying to get something, a little bit of gold here, a little bit of gold there, try to show up with a little bit more, but this one has ulterior motives, and you can see him moving on the map, right? You see Jinx is already in the top lane. Kindred and Tahm Kench are already taking control of this area. Now, Tahm Kench, this is one of the prerogatives that you have with this champion. You basically win all fights at early game with Tahm Kench. There are exceptions, of course, but your general rule, for discussion's sake, is that Tahm Kench is going to win these fights. And him coming over means that you have some plays. And this goes into the other thing I wanted to point out. With Malphite taking all those syncopated backs, he's not getting that roam timer with his ultimate. So it's been sitting on the shelf for 3 minutes now, right? Almost 3 minutes. He's had this ultimate, has not been able to use it. They decide to move him bottom, which then puts him out of position for ulting again. But then they do, I'm going to say, get wiser, and they pull him over for this play, realizing that JDG is going to contest. They've moved their bot lane. You see no champions on the bottom half of the map. Means T1 is looking for this fight. Now, Keria has stepped out to move towards the Gragas. Now, this is a winning fight for the rest of the team. You've got higher levels. You've got better explosiveness. Are they going to be... No, don't retreat, Guma. You got to help your team get this, even if it's just Faker. There you go. Keria zoning Gragas, showing the strength of how good Tahm Kench is. Level 5 versus 7 on the Gragas, and he's able to just say, who's got the bigger belly now? But Gragas exacting his revenge with an E-flash into an ultimate when the team is not expecting it, and T1 caught napping, showing that they put all their eggs into the basket of getting the Rift Herald and not in what to do next. And these map movements, honestly, have paralleled this. And I don't want to repeat too much. I don't want to beat a dead horse about it. But when you play Kindred, it makes all the decision trees harder. It makes lining up your plays harder. Sure, you are capable of doing dives and playing aggressively and doing things like this, but ultimately putting a team together where you have a marksman in the jungle is so different from your other game plans that when you do put it together, it is much harder to get your team-wide macro plan together, right? This is what's causing these fluxes and why I think they have a significant disadvantage in this game, right? They've got the Rift Herald for themselves, sure, but they're down a K already. Gragas is just pummeling through these fights. They got to the 2 kills there. He's got this matchup for himself where he's going to be bleeding out the Malphite for resources, struggling to get back whenever possible. Kindred hasn't gotten enough for that to be worth it. And despite having Kindred with, infinite scaling, and although they can never really get there, Jinx with the scaling, the rest of the team needs to set up a fight basically perfectly for Kindred and Jinx to be able to get their damage off. I don't really see them getting enough damage up front. They might try for a Nautilus pick, but again, this combination of Wukong Annie means that they're going to be able to blow up the fights. They've got Rakan in the draft. They've got Gragas to disengage if they ever need to, or to just specifically knock people out of the Kindred ultimate. This is a tough road you've scripted yourself, and by giving yourself a different script to your game, being the play around Kindred plan, that changes the whole game, right? Your communication in game becomes a little bit worse. It becomes a little bit looser. You miss a detail here or there, or someone misses an assignment. Very easy to make these small mistakes. We'll see if they're able to come back to it, but all signs are pointing to JDG right now. So if they are going to make it happen for themselves, what is it going to look like? Well, they've got 1 Mountain Drake for themselves. They've got the extra stats. That's going to be extra beef on Malphite, Nautilus, Tahm Kench. So if they can take a front-to-back fight where they're bulldozing, where they're really just able to continue to press forward, and the threat isn't able to be turned back on the Jinx or Kindred, then that's the sort of fight that they can win. Now, can they accomplish that for themselves? Well, Tahm Kench probably has to make a fairly desperate play forward. The problem is, as you get to 2 items, Tahm Kench loses his advantage, right? And because of that, he's usually much safer to use as a pocket pick for the carries. The problem with that is, then, what is the threat that you have coming forward? Gragas can ignore the damage that's being fronted by Nautilus and Malphite. So they're going to have to find a way to steamroll in. What I need to see from Keria is a true limit break where you know exactly how far you can step forward while still being safe for your carries, and the carries just saying, hey, it's okay, I want you to go be you and do things that you can do. If you're just a pocket ultimate for me or a pocket stopwatch, that's not good enough. I need more from this team at those moments. Good job here by Faker, knocking up in response to the knockup. Are they going to be able to get a turn kill for themselves? They opt not to because Annie hasn't used anything yet. Probably could have gotten away with it because based on her cooldowns, I'm not sure that she could have gotten the ultimate off with a stun there. In fact, I'm positive she couldn't, right? Q was down and E was down. Means that she would have had to get a second Q and into flash WR, which would give you enough time to react. But here we go, Tahm Kench, big flex. If you take this pick, it's because you want dragons. Ooh, I don't like that Keria is playing so shallow right now. Jumping out for himself means that Kindred gets lambasted, and what was that? Colossal mistake. That's all I can say about it. I'd like to say something that just needs improvement, but that entire play needs to be overhauled, right? You need to scrap it, just reset your mind. You can figure out what you want to get from the next one. But something like that, mistakes like that tend to linger, and it speaks to what I was just talking about, the decision tree. The decision tree is so difficult when you have such a different team compared to what you're used to doing. Owner, I'm not taking anything away from them. I'm sure that they can carry this game. They're capable of it, right? But it's just such a different narrative, a different strategy. Now, T1 love this, making a play for themselves. Tahm Kench gobbling over the wall and saying, hey, we can take this blast cone that is empowered to buy the map to get out to safety. Beautifully done by T1. 369 unable to get something back for himself. Now you see the power of this Everfrost, right? Completely one-sided trade there. Shrugs off all this damage. He's going to heal it back up using his passive. Malphite gets chunked. Now let's look at the play here. Minions are not even here, so this is all on the back of Tahm Kench stepping up for a moment. They actually flash to get away from Zeus's ultimate, but the fact that he's a big fat body right there is all that matters in that moment. Guma stepping out, and here we go. The power of Tahm Kench jumping over this wall. Only the thinnest walls. Gragas trying to separate the two of them. Wouldn't that have been incredible? So JDG, can you collect it? Can you bring it back together? Well, the team fights are still going to be much easier for you to execute. Your script is very simple. Ruler using Gale Force in a micro space to escape Faker's flash engage there. Mechanical play to the maximum, despite not having flash or ghost, is able to escape that. Now Faker is happy to make that trade. The team is more capable to catch the Aphelios, and that is really what their goal is going to be in these fights, to make sure that that sustained sort of damage is gone. Problem is, a lot of it, like we were talking about before, needs to play front into back. Aphelios is going to be able to deal insane amounts of splash damage to lead off fights, and you can see that they're going to keep the white gun locked and loaded. These fights, you'll see the best situation, we've spoken about it before, but you want to have 10 bullets or less of flamethrower, 10 bullets or less of gravitum. That allows you to cast your flamethrower spell, then swap to gravitum, swap, root everybody, swap, then you've got red-white guns. You can ultimate and go for the all-in right there and essentially get 4 spells when you're only supposed to have access to 2. So we'll see if Aphelios ever gets that dream scenario off. I expect T1 to play around it, but what you'll see from the Aphelios is lingering white guns, right? He's actually okay separating the red gun and churning through it just to get rid of it. It's okay to have green-white as a combo. And he can use green for range, safe farming, plenty of options that he has for himself. Now, is he going to try to get rid of white now to pair it with red again? It looks like he will. Now he's keeping white for a moment in case he needs it right here for that spell exactly. So now he's out. Now he's at maximum long range. He's like a Jinx right now with green and blue guns. Let's take a look at the damage here. Wukong just showing ease of execution. Jump into the middle of the fight. Guma gets a huge pop-up into that fight. Was that a Gragas ult that didn't move Guma, you see? I'll have to look at that slower, but they don't get it. But it doesn't really matter, and they're not going to call a pause because they just crushed that fight. 3 kills to 1. So now no Baron. Baron will be up in 2 minutes. No prize yet. Kind of random as far as how that gets played out. You see T1 getting themselves with the large wall, right? This fat wall at your back is definitely a weakness in their position, and Gragas finds it. So here we go. Goes for, there we go. E-flash. Kyria pops him out. Knock up into knock up. There's the, okay, so there's the ultimate. It split Guma enough to say you can't really deal damage for a moment, but expertly casting the ultimate, making sure he's got the most, and actually, honestly, Tibbers dealt so much damage in that fight. Kind of crazy to think that the lingering effect of that ultimate is what carried the overall damage in the fight. I'd like to see a damage chart if they have it. Will T1 be able to put it together? Kindred and Jinx being protected by Tahm Kench. It's just so hard. So what can they do? Well, we do have Abyssal Mask picked up on Nautilus, something that he's happy to do. It keeps some of the damage away from Annie in the lane and from Gragas as well. But paired with the Merc Treads means that he is a sitting duck target for these ADs. What you're usually relying on is the fact that the AD is the target to your lockup. So you don't really mind if they're the ones that you don't have resistance to because you're targeting them with your all-in. That said, he can also go for something like Anathemas later, even if he is building MR. Now, we see the upfront fight. They tried to teleport into the fight to get a good angle, but again, we see the execution on this composition is nearly impossible. Red team getting split apart. Wukong just gets to continue pressing forward. It is so easy to play Wukong comps because it's just dash forward, decoy forward. Nimbus strike forward, ultimate while I've got as many people chewed up as possible and knock them up into the air. So again, they just continue forward. We'll see if they use Annie to tank the turret. No, step back, there we go. Annie doing or Knight specifically doing a trick you can get away with on Tibbers, which is step away. Let the Tibbers zone for you. You move away. At about 1400 range, it's just going to snap back to you. So as you approach that outer ring and it's getting close, you just send the Tibbers forward. They instinctively will kite backwards. They don't want to take any damage. And so you actually kind of create 2 steps for every one that you take. So check out this angle. They get the engage that they want. Ultimate into ultimate, they pop ruler. But they've used Malphite ult and Nautilus ult, and now they can't go back to provide the peel for their carries. Rakan also dying early, but where's the rest? Guma, low health. Where is Faker? He thinks that the fight is going left, but it doesn't, and it means he's completely out of this fight. That's the difference between that fight being carried. Again, miscommunication from T1 in a tough spot. They need to say, hey, let's get around on this bend. Let's consolidate here. Try to get a control ward in a bush that you want to fight around. All right? Those are the steps that you need to take if you want to have a chance in these fights. But not for the first time, right? This is at least 4 fight micro mistakes, something that you don't expect from these teams, where they're just mispositioning or making different calls. Something's going on that is putting them at odds with each other. The good news for us is it means that we're going to get to game 5 if things continue this way. 2 dragons to 1 and 4k in the gold lead for JDG. How are they going to press up their advantage? We see Annie's going to go straight into the magic burst. Which makes sense because of all the tanks on the enemy team, right? You say, all right, they're going Abyssal Rush, and we've got 2 other tanks. Absolutely, I'm fine with Leandries into Burn. This is optimized build from Annie, still opting for Ionian Boots of Lucidity and Stopwatch, saying, I'm the playmaker for my team. I want to be the one flash ulting in, working to save Gragas's tools. Maybe he can use an E-Flash to get in, but we want to save his ultimate as a tool to break up the Kindred Lamb's Respite. Love this setup. Also love the Shurelya's and the Merc Treads from Rakan. Oftentimes you'd see Ionian Boots of Lucidity, but against triple tank team, it actually might take you a little bit of work to get through that front line. So I love the Merc Treads, making sure that he's going to be able to fight through there, especially since Nautilus can be used to disrupt some of your combo. You're saying, nope, you can't hold me back for that long. I will still have uptime on Grand Entrance and be able to get the show that I want. It's the show that we want. We want a big fight. We want to see it. It's exciting. But from a calculated point of view, again, it's all about the execution of Kindred Ultimate. T1 cannot be caught in the situation like they did last time where they're going forwards and then backwards. It has to be forwards together. They have to use the Tahm Kench to the limit. The AD carries need to play cracked out of their mind. They need to be sidestepping and aggressing and dealing maximum uptime damage, or they will not win this game. Looks like the wolf was a slight miss there from Owner. You can get that over the wall to aggress on the Baron, get some extra damage and debuff charges potentially on your enemies there. Something you should be looking to do if you have the range to aggro Baron. Absolutely do it. Instead, we see JDG getting a ward line. You see this shallow wards on the right side. They just want to have very minimal vision to the right. They'll start moving it over to the left as they get more and more push priority. And something that T1 did wrong in the first game that JDG is doing right, they don't catch themselves around that wall. They move together to the left as an answer to this ultimate. Now, Faker, to the teleport, I should say. Faker needs to aggress more. They need to be able to step forward. This team needs to be more willing to steamroll. They don't do it. They don't pull the trigger, largely because of Knight's position. Check out where they're at. They've got flash available. E into flash ultimate right there. Oh, missed a window. Okay. Either missed it or opting that we don't need to take it. Is T1 just trying to bait the fight? JDG could be saying, hey, there's too many health bars. There's an Abyssal ticking up and a Jack show that we don't want to get into. We can find better. And in better, they find indeed. Here comes the ultimate from Gragas. Split up the team fight. And getting a beautiful engage. They're going to get up onto Keria and Guma. Guma gets the shield, but they peel back. But this does spell doom for Nautilus, which means it spells doom for the Baron as well. Tibbers chasing him out of the lane. They'll bring him up into this situation. And they are 4v3 with licking their wounds on the side of T1. Now, can they get straight over to Dragon? You know you can't contest this Baron. You don't have even a Jinx ultimate to try. So they could try to come over here, get the bot push quickly, and then go for this Dragon. But the truth is, with the empowered recalls and the fact that Baron's up in 22 seconds, they know that they're actually not going to be able to get it done. Enemy team will be on the map too quickly. So what else can they get for themselves? Well, they surely don't want to take a fight anymore, especially since Annie's got the Ionian. She'll be able to do this again in the fight. So if we're looking at one of these upfront fights, not only are you disadvantaged with stats and money, the Baron buff, the waves, everything about it is looking bad for you. You cannot go contest this dragon. All right, contesting this dragon is a way to lose this game, not to win. You need to try to weather this storm. Luckily, you have a bunch of inners up, so expect them to move Guma around wave to wave as far away from where they think the push is going to come, and they're going to get gold onto Guma, right? So they do that. They send Guma to top lane. Kyrgia's there to shadow. They're going to allow 2 middles to go, and potentially even the sieges into these inhibitors. The question is whether or not you call this bluff if you're Guma. Do you keep on pushing, saying, hey, I know that you guys are on Dragon as well, or I suspect, I don't think you actually have the play to get in here. The problem is then you have just Kindred trying to clear waves, not enough wave clear at all, but it looks like they're able to survive. The call is made out that Jinx might be recalling, and they opt to go spend their gold. Now they're going to do this. They've got 90 seconds left on the Baron. The reason you do this is because you've just pocketed an extra 2k from these 2 turrets going down. You can spend that, get meaningful gold advantages in the form of stopwatches and elixirs, and now try to flex that lead into the end of the game. So up 6.4k, they get back on the map. They're going to show us their technique for ending with Baron here. A little bit of syncopated backs here. We'll see if it's a full item or at least a Zeal going for the Aphelios. No, nothing. No, it gets BF Sword. Okay, even better. So BF Sword being afforded for Aphelios will have that much more damage. Annie's popping out into the fight, getting ready to bring herself. Well, I'm not sure what she's going to get. Shadow Flame? Could be. There's a lot of shielding on this team. But probably Rabadon's, knowing that the shield is very important in these fights. We'll see what that turns into, if it turns into anything, because JDG does have the onus to end the game here. How are they going to do it? Splitting up. They've got 2 teleports. One of them is not up, but Annie's will be up shortly. About 20 seconds away from that. And they say, hey, in the jungle, we're just going to take this advantage. And they take the blast cone to knock them out. Faker getting picked off from his team really should never happen in that position. JDG should not be allowed to push multiple lanes and have the advantage in the jungle. You're supposed to get one or the other. If you're T1, you have to work to take one of those things away. They don't, means they lose Nautilus, which means that they lose their comp. And they're going to bleed out all 3 of their inhibitors. JDG could try to get some of the damage on here and say, hey, if there's a misstep in the defense, we'll take it. But honestly, they should be trying to get mid in as well while the waves are in. Now, because of the level advantage in game, because of where the minion waves were before, their wave will come in and will break this, but not before the respawn is up on Faker. So they're just going to recall again, reset again. Same thing as before. And now we've got 2 extra turrets, 2 extra inhibitors. They are the best ones to have dead. Having the outer ones dead is better than having 2 of them next to each other, because it makes the defenses much harder to go side to side. You do have 2 carries in the form of Kindred and Jinx. They're happy to wave clear. Nautilus does have decent magic damage for themselves to clear these minions as well. But clearly, we are going to try to let them just group up. If you're T1, the one advantage you can claim right now is that nothing else is happening for 2 minutes. And the Chemtech Drake is not actually that powerful. So you can turn this into a momentum to try to slingshot about 2,000 gold back in your pocket by letting these waves die and letting them come into you. They opt for an aggression play onto Knight, who uses Tibbers to block the follow-up. Beautifully done. Getting a stun out first and then microing the bear to stay in the path of the Nautilus hook to make sure that there's no follow-up. Well done. Knight has been out of their mind, and if JDG wins, even if JDG loses, I might give player of the series to Knight, because he's been that good. It would never happen, but that is the level that they're playing at. No complaints on Missing or Kanabi either. Just all of them playing out of their mind. Everybody's playing great. This is fantastic League of Legends, isn't it? All right. One more shop. This looks like they've unleashed the wards on the map. They've gotten as deep of a position as they can. 45 seconds means that Rakan is going to pull the trigger on the recall, come back into lane, and now they're going to play this topsy-turvy seesaw style attack where wherever you leave any point of weakness on the map, two supers coming in on side lanes, they're going to go to the opposite side and force you to deal with the strength of the supers plus the strength of their wallets and the fact that two spawns are coming up at the same time. So here they go. Step one, push out mid. You get better information, right? You get to move first. You're gone on the map. Enemy team picks up the minion wave, which they don't need to do, but if they walk past that minion wave, they're going to get spotted, right? So it's like you have battle wards. You have moving wards that are going to get information for you. Now, JDG has the prerogative to create plays. They say we're not actually setting a trap. They're actually creating a large web, knowing that enemy team has no vision of the dragon. So everyone is stepping out of vision and suspecting for the play. T1 has to meander their way forward, but it allows Gragas and Annie to push these waves all the way in, which means we're going to have syncopated backs. Team splits up. JDG is going to take winning fights in two different positions and plus get out on this side. Now, if you're at T1, you have to find this kill and consolidate onto Knight, and he's not even close. Faker forced to use spells to peel here. Masterfully played by JDG. Incredible finish to that game. Holy cow. I don't know the last time I've seen that play. Right? Perfect information of the pits. You've gained advanced warding vision. T1 has to be super cautious trying to step out. And we've talked about these sort of checkmate positions that the way that you have to get out is just throw the battering ram. You just have to try, right? You cannot take these piecemeal approaches where you try to go step by step because of what we just saw. They get better information about you. They get to make reactive plays, and they make the very best available one to them on the map. They go back. I want to see this end again. I want to show you guys. So check this out. From here, they push the wave first. They've denied all the vision. They have a teleport ward for themselves for the Nautilus or for the Malphite. This is T1. But JDG was actually wrapping this web around them. Now, they should have gotten information about the Wukong being there, which may have led them to suss out what was happening. But check this out. Gragas and Annie, who were hiding, there's two good plays. One is either to sandwich, or if they consolidate, then you go branch back out, you push in those waves. Now you come back to your team. Gragas is going to be able to win this fight. Annie's going to be able to get out. And whichever one of these sequences favors you, you take. Beautifully done. Forcing T1 in too many directions. Best way out, if you're T1 in response to that play, is just commit. You have to commit in one direction and say, we need to clean this up. The 5 versus 2, 5 versus 3 that we see, we just need to clean it up and try to get our recalls in and win the 5v2 that's under our turret and hope that we can do it before the Nexus comes out. Because we are in checkmate, right? No doubt about it. Perfect play, JDG wins this game 100 times out of 100. But you want to create imbalance. You need to create some chance of coming from behind if you're T1. Beautifully played by JDG. What a masterclass of macro.